bẹ̀wé kúkú dùkú lóko. Podium International wọ́n ti wà tipẹ́tipẹ́ látìgbà tí wọ́n ti ń bàbọ̀ wọn ò fìgbà kan tẹ́rì o. Wọ́n ti wá ṣe bẹ̀bẹ̀ wọ́n ti gbé bẹ̀bẹ̀ dé. Podium Cinema ni wọ́n tún gbé dé. Podium Cinema lórí YouTube ẹ fọ́lọ̀ wọn kẹ́ ẹ láìkì wọn kẹ́ ẹ subscribe. Ibẹ̀ lẹ́tì mọ̀ wọ àwọn àjẹ́ àbálẹ̀ fíìmù ẹ̀dọ̀kí fíìmù tó léfò gan tààrà. Podium Cinema mo bẹ́rí fún yín fíìmù mẹ́sàn-án ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ni wọ́n kó jáde o àwọn gbàǹkọ́gbé fíìmù èkíní májẹ̀mú ẹ̀gbọ́n èkejì my wet ẹ̀kẹta ọmọ ẹni ẹ̀kẹrin àlàmú èkó ẹ̀karùn-ún àìmọ̀ ṣẹ̀wárí pé nǹkan kì í ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ràgó ó kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ eléyìí lẹ́tìkẹjù èdè Yorùbá ni wọ́n fi ṣe àwọn fíìmù yìí ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kẹfà sẹ́ẹ̀kẹsàn-án èdè òyìnbó ni wọ́n kọ́ ẹ̀kẹfà tẹ́mà èkeje the casting ẹ̀kẹjọ M1 the detective ẹ̀kẹsàn 100 M1 the detective at 100 orí síríìsì lẹ́fì máa wò ó ìyẹn dàgbéléwò nìyẹn Podium International Podium Cinema ẹ fọ́lọ̀ wọn kẹ́ ẹ láìkì wọn lórí YouTube wọ́n wà lórí Facebook wọ́n wà lórí Instagram Podium Cinema ó ti dọbẹ̀ ẹ subscribe.
Yeah, good afternoon, our viewers. It's Kayode Emola here today. I've got a little boy here who is going to be joining us. He's probably going to be directing me, and I've got Baba Jala as well. So I'm just going to allow Baba Jala say hello to our viewers.
Hello to good having me again today, and we hope we will be able to exchange some very important viewpoints.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, before we go on, we've just got something very tragic, I would say, that's happened. Podium International, Podium lost her elder brother this morning, so she would not be joining us. She's been our rock support behind the scene. She's been doing a lot, although a lot of people cannot see her sometimes. So we just want to have a 1 minute silence for the brother before we continue on the show. Thank you. Our time starts now. May the soul of the departed rest in perfect peace.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah, so thank you, our viewers, for joining us today. We'll be looking at education. So last week we did look at the part one of education. Unfortunately, Baba Jala was not here. His network was sort of interrupting. And so myself and Baba Jala will be looking at the part two, which will still be continuation of the ASU, the ongoing ASU, and then the ASUP, so the university and the polytechnic strike that's still ongoing. Vis-a-vis, we have people paying 100 million for just to show interest for becoming president. It's not a guarantee. So far, I know APC is just one, they call them political party. Do we really need them? They made roughly over 4 billion for presidential, state governors, and this. That money could do a lot in education. These are just individual money. It has nothing to do with tax. So that's one. The second point we would also be looking at is Deborah Samuel that was killed in a university settings by those who are supposed to be educated. And then we'll also be looking at the National Youth Service, because Deborah's killing is not the first, and it's obviously not going to be the last. But
we want it to be the last.
Yeah, it could be the last if Yoruba decides to pull out and let the North continue to do their own, because we don't have those kind of killings in the South. And then, if time permits, we'll probably look at American education. The American schooling and the Nigerian schooling, and the British schooling system is quite a bit different. Whereas the American universities, it's been pretty much good. Over the years, we've been seeing killing of children, especially primary school children. Why do they always target primary school children? Because these killers, is it that they know that these children are vulnerable and they would run? Because if it's adults, yes, the casualty may be high or may be low, but adults they have impromptu mind and can fight as well. So Baba Jala, if we just go to the ongoing ASU strike, it's going on longer than usual. When I was in university between 2004 and 2009, one of the things that we were always worrying about is graduating on time. 5 years I spent in the university. My course was a 5-year course. I was praying not to get an extension. But while I was in school, there were a lot of people who had already spent 7 years on a 5-year course. In the UK, that could have gotten you a degree, a master's degree, and a PhD. So by the time I was finishing my undergraduate, I could have got a PhD and be ready to go into research and being productive for the environment. The only luck I had was whenever we have this prolonged strike, maybe 2 months, there was always strike every year. But whenever we have this prolonged strike, then what the university does is the university cancels our holiday. So I could say I never enjoyed any holiday whilst I was in university. For students who could say, okay, plan for proper holiday to look for proper maybe holiday job or something to support themselves, because not many people, their parents can support them through education. What do you think an average Nigerian student can do? And vis-a-vis the Nigerian lecturers, because we got lecturers of the Polytechnic and lecturers of the universities who have been affected. It's not affecting the private universities, but the public universities are now in a dire situation.
Well, I had two schools in Nigeria, but we didn't have this type of strikes happening. Well, the current ethos of education in Nigeria today is that there's a nonchalant attitude towards what we call scholarship. Scholarship to develop the use of tomorrow. And that has gone. So most of our people who are trying to have any form of education now are just struggling. It is unfortunate that our country has descended into what we call a banana stage. Unfortunately, most of our people, particularly from the Southwest, the Yorubas, are still thinking that there's something to get out of Nigeria. You see, the moment the education had started falling is the moment people should have been thinking of, is it worth it continue to support the continuous existence of this country? But no. Rather, some of us decided, okay, if the federal government, if the government cannot do it, then we can establish some private schools and all that. After all, private schools are in Europe and America. Look at Britain that we sort of shackled off from. I use that word shackled because we are still tied towards the bond that created that country called Nigeria. They have an educational system that takes care of its own children from cradle to grave, right from primary school. uh, Policies of how the children are taught and what they eat, what time they wake up to go to school, is discussed at the parliament. Just about 3 days ago, an accident happened that involved some young kids in some school, forgetting the name of the town. No one died. Some of them were hospitalized and some were released on time. This case came up in the House of Commons and they discussed and they sent commiserations to the families of those victims. That does not happen in Nigeria. It's as if everybody's living on its own. The so-called educational system and the masses to the federal government is, if they want, they could abolish it. And that's why currently they don't want to even agree on anything. Because the country itself is going down the drain. When several publications are flying all over the place, Nigeria has got to the point of no return. It is true, but this is something that have been warning our people, the Yorubas, from stopping carrying the burden of Nigeria. We are the ones carrying the burden of Nigeria. And that first
it's quite interesting.
It affects the educational system. It affects the health service. It affects every aspect of decisions that make a place to be called a country.
Yeah, so, it's very interesting because I was going to look at that the incidents of Deborah. I wasn't going to bring it up yet, but it's quite interesting because, like you mentioned, the incident that happened in the schools in the UK was mentioned. And the incident in Texas is mentioned, is getting global attention. We saw Charlie Hebdo some few years back in France. I think that was 2015. These things get international recognition. And quite frankly, Deborah too made international headlines on several Western media. But the problem is, the president did not say anything.
And the House of Rep did not say anything. The Senate,
the House of Reps,
none of the governors in any of the states mentioned anything.
And all the presidential aspirants did not say anything.
Going to be buried on them. That, well, of course, is going to be buried on everyone, of course.
Is it a culture? Have we built this monstrous culture on our politicians that our politicians are now before we say the kings are the eyes of the gods. The king can do no wrong because they represent God. Are we now saying our politicians can do no wrong? Are they also representing the gods?
No, they are politicians and they don't represent anybody. They represent themselves, one, and they have sort of cut themselves away from those who happen to have elected them. And unfortunately, the electors themselves don't know that they have the power of sovereignty to say no to this politician. That if you cannot represent us, then you come back home. We should start afresh. Because I'm overall with the kind of nose-maiding of these politicians by some of our people who make comments on the issues of Nigeria. First of all, do they really know how Nigeria is or what is Nigeria in the first place? Education in Western region was copied by many other African countries. In Western region in the 50s, I mean, even under the tutelage of the British colonial rule, we had the freedom of proper education, which was similar to that of Britain. When they started free education, we started also. When they started comprehensive schools, we also started. When they started even modern schools, we also started copying the best of the world at that time. What do we have now? Federal schools, even state schools have also degenerated into
even up to grammar schools.
Yeah, state schools, grammar schools, primary. In fact, what we are saying now, the Deborah issue is not just one. When I was in Nigeria and I was a teacher at some point, there were some of these young girls who went to the federal secondary school in Sokoto. They came back and told me the same story that Deborah got killed for, because there was that kind of inimical distrust. I wouldn't call it mutual distrust. You have to watch your back when they were at school, because the children from the north do not see the children from the south as part of them. They don't call themselves Nigerians. We are to them, in the those of us in the north are infiltrators in their area. We could be asked to go back anytime, and we lose all our property.
That's a very big one, because
this is true. And you see, unfortunately, most of our people in the south are not concerned about those who have lost everything.
I'll take you back to this, talking about infiltration. One of the things that have caused demographic change and migration between the components of Nigeria is NYSC. NYSC is brought a lot of people from the south, educated people from the south, to the north for development. Yeah. I call it cheap labor or free labor, because when I was in NYSC in 2010, I was basically paid 9,000 naira. And we used to make a joke then. We get paid on the 27th. And we used to make a joke that your money cannot even cross over to the following month. So we get paid 9,000 with the inflation and everything. And before 30th, that money is finished. And we ask ourselves, how do we even survive that? Now, talking about, we see a lot of educated Southerners.
If I may talk to you about that particular remuneration. You see, the government is not really interested in the citizens. If not, with you distributing the young persons into different areas to work and help develop and open up, which I believe is not to their interest. It's just because one of their leaders many years back said they really didn't want Southerners to work in their area. It is only when they don't find a Southerner, a foreigner, maybe from Pakistan or Bangladesh or some other countries outside Africa, then they will employ us as
contractors. Yeah,
as contractors. So with this in mind, I cannot still imagine that our people in the south will still want to have a political accommodation.
Yeah, because what you're saying is very much still active till today. Because in 2011, I told one of the colleagues that I would like to work in the north. And he said, it's not possible. And I said, why? He said, because you're not from here. Yeah. And I said, but you see, I'm not from here, but I'm a Nigerian. He said, oh, that doesn't follow.
You're joking.
And he himself, he's from Kogi State. And he's not Yoruba, but he's not Hausa. His name he's got Mohammed in his name. And one other, I guess, tribal names. A lot of us always think, oh, Hausa or Yoruba, or we have people who are not either Ibira or something. So this guy was telling me that he's from Kogi State, but he's apt to, because of the Mohammed in his name, he's apt to claim that he's from the north. So say he's from the north to be able to get a job. And I am bearing Kayode. There's no way I can ever change my name in a million years. So I said, it is to their loss if they cannot have somebody like me working in the system.
Unfortunately, if I want to interrupt again, it is not to their loss. They don't want us. But unfortunately,
I would say
politicians
it's to their loss.
they don't even want that kind of progress in their society.
Exactly. And any
So,
society that
so they
doesn't
don't
want
they don't
progress,
feel, they don't feel it. They
any
don't
society
just
that doesn't want progress is losing.
and that
I
is
could
that is
remember.
that has now spread down to the south, and that is why Lagos is just seen as a big village that has to be treated like a village. Imagine a city of 21 million with no electricity, no water
It's
supply,
crazy. And the people
eh?
in Lagos,
And our
because
people are still holding on to a Nigeria
what
that
is
is killing
holding
us.
the Lagos economy now is, I could say, yeah, Lagos is making money, but the diaspora remittance is quite more than what Lagos is even making.
Yeah,
The
that
diaspora
is true.
remittance is not, and majority of us who are diasporas, not all, I would say about 70 to 80% had migrated from Lagos in the diaspora. Not all, but majority of those who had migrated to the diaspora had migrated from Lagos. Either
That is
was
true.
born in Lagos or had lived in Lagos at one time or
Or
the other
walk
in
to
their life.
Lagos to make
Or
sure
walk to
they guys
Lagos.
walk in there to be. I want to let us wind back on this NYSC thing and education. I will apologize to all those young persons who are engaged in the NYSC. We occasioned the formation of the NYSC. Our vision was different from what we have now. Our vision was to train young men and women to take part in the construction and building and the socialization of the country. We started with an organization called Nigerian Voluntary Services Association. A branch of it also was in Ghana called VOLU, and it was supported by the United Nations and the headquarters of International Voluntary Services in Paris, number 44 Rue de Paris. It's still there. The Western region supported the development of this organization. It funded it on its own, Western region. The other regions did not partake. We tried as young men, although the government of Western region informed the other two, the North and the East, about this movement, but they were not interested. On our own, as participants in this organization, we went to the various regions to campaign that we want our youth. We were thinking of a Nigeria that is supposed to develop. Unfortunately, I was part of that kind of wrong dream that time. Our emissaries that went to see Sir Francis Xavier, who was governor of Eastern Region then, came back with the report that they don't want us to spread Yoruba civilization into their midst. Ngbati, that was the report. In the north, Sir Kasim Ibrahim, who was the governor, gave quietly told us that they really don't want us, and that we are going to corrupt their youths. Then hold on, I've not finished, because this is very important, because that's the foundation of NYSC. Then we went to we first of all went to the regions. Then we now went to the federal government. I hope he's still alive, and if he hears me, he will remember me and Bayo Kumolu Johnson and the other Shosonya. We went to him. The man, Mr. Koku, he was the permanent secretary in charge of youth and social welfare at the federal level. When we spoke to, around that time, there was some incident at the University of Ibadan where some students were accused of embezzling some funds from their organization. I mean, the Students' Union funds. What I'm talking about is early 60s. Then when we told Koku about our intentions, then Gowon was on the throne, I would say. I use the word throne. he dismissed us that how can they give us money to manage. Then we said, look, the international community has entrusted us with, and we give proper account regularly, that if we are just given the chance to reorganize our youth, because most of them have during the holiday, they just roam the streets. Only a few of them have the chance to come to Europe or to some factories for a holiday job. That time we can be used gainfully to develop our country so that we'll be part of the beginning of a new class of young men and women who will take part in government in future. That was our vision. But unfortunately, in the east and west
They turned it
and
into
the
a
center,
national youth service.
hold on, and then Koku now I think wrote a proposal to Gowon and said, some young people came and said they have been building houses and all that, and bridges and covers all over the places in Western region and some other parts of Africa. Like we had a project in Kitwe in Zambia, we had a project in Palime in Togo, and many other places in Africa, because we had the funds and we managed it properly. Some of those listening to me will remember what I'm talking about. So when youth service was now introduced, they first of all tried to do what you were doing, but it was dropped like like something that was not right. The students who have got been graduates to be make carry pom pom, which we did with joy. One now Professor what's his name now? Professor Oluaino. He is from Otaibaji. We built the place now that the community center, a very big community center in 1967. Then this man, Kola Balogun from his town, at that time retired ambassador to Ghana, the first ambassador to Ghana. You see, we have been involved in trying to move that country towards the path of civilization in line with what has happened in Western region, which some prime ministers in Britain had praised Awolowo that if he was the prime minister in Great Britain, would have been a very successful one. So our education was imparting on us that the knowledge we should give back to society. We tried. And now, currently, if we come forward, at some point, there's this Ali Mongo incident. But before Ali Mongo, there has already been what is quota system in education. It affected me also at the secondary school level because I didn't get the chance to attend the Federal Science Secondary School that was attached to the College of Technology in Lagos, all because the quota for the West had been filled. That's long time ago. It has always been there. It became official when Ali now made it a sort of compulsory at the federal level. So you see, education has not been something that the federal government wanted. They rather put us in the position where you have a situation like the DCR, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, whereas at independence there was less than 20 graduates in that country. Our federal government wanted that. And that's why they don't care in the area of science and technology, research and development. It's underfunded. And that is the basis for research and development in universities, in part on industries. Industries invest in that area, and industries give certain situation analysis to research departments, universities all over the world to work on it, and then they fund it. I don't see anywhere. At a time when I was lecturing and I went to the Polytechnic of Ibadan, the young men had already been producing biogas using a cow dung in a big drum, and they fed it into some of their lecturers' homes. I tried to promote it. I even told some industry builders that there's some report at the Polytechnic of Ibadan. they could go and take it and upscale it. And most of the rubbish could now be processed to produce gas for homes, for estates. Some of them who are listening now will remember I did say that time I was in London here. You see, education is important for any country to grow. When a government flippantly ignores the cries of the intelligentsias, who are called the people saddled with the task of educating the young ones for the future, then that country is a dead country. And I don't see any reason why anybody should be going to buy any paper to say they want to go for another election. We should address the fundamental issue of our existence. If you want development, if you want the integration of the people, not on the basis of colonizing Fulani cattle areas, I don't call them bandits. They are not bandits. You are giving them a name that they don't qualify for. They qualify to be called colonizers. They are taking over your land. And they have the town Fulani and the nomadic Fulani who are in the forest. The town Fulani are the ones who are taking care of the interests of those in the forest to make sure. Look at in education, if for example, the Onyo Dam research stations and the possible irrigation systems, that could be a teaching ground for students of agriculture. Do we have it? There's so many things we have lost. Education is nothing in Nigeria anymore. Even the private schools are even struggling. The private universities, when they bring their certificates overseas, they still have to go back and do some additional top-up studies to be able to qualify. The same thing they spoiled the University of Lagos. When we were studying business science, we were supposed to do computerization and all that. We couldn't use this thing for analysis. We couldn't use the single computer center. That time it was the point system. So we learned it off head. It was only when I came to England that I now you touch a computer for the first time. We were always show the picture of the computer in the. I'm talking of 1980s to 86.
I mean, it's very pathetic because
So our education has never been geared towards our development. Even our curriculum should have been geared towards development, right from primary to the highest level.
I'll give you a story. I have a group of friends. We all schooled in the UK. I did geosciences, so my skills are transferable anywhere. I could be working in the oil company like I did previously. I could work in water corporations.
Exactly.
I could work in building sites. I did some part of geotechnics, so I could work in railway or bridge construction. My friends, they've gone to work in subsea and they've gone to study in subsea engineering. And at that time, there was hostile environment, so they could not stay in the UK. And these guys are guys who came out with distinction and then went back to Nigeria. And their skills could not be utilized in Nigeria, which meant that their skills, their studies not been tailored to what the environment actually would benefit immensely from. It's not like we don't have work for them to do in Nigeria, because we have quite a lot of vessels. We have quite a lot of offshore work. But the Shells, the Chevron, the Mobiles, the Ajif, the ENI, Total and stuff, they would rather take a foreigner than hire Nigerians, in spite the government effort on local content, which is quite harming the student population or the would-be workers in Nigeria.
If I may say, the government effort on that local content is not definitive. They are not doing what they should do. If they did what partially Awolowo put in when he worked with Gowon before he was slapped out of this thing. Some of you don't know, he was slapped by Castina, and Adekunle went and got a service revolver and called him out that let's have a shootout. That led to the quiet exit of Adekunle from the government at the time. If those of you don't know, Awolowo was stabbed by Osman Kassina, and Adekunle said if he was in the north, can he slap Mbalewa? Can he slap Amadu Bello? That became a very serious argument. You see, there have been several reasons why we should not continue to be part of this country. I just don't know what is wrong with our elders who keep on saying that there is something. I don't see anything that holds us down other than the ignorance of our people who keep on trying to find an accommodation with the Northerners and please them. It is wrong.
And if I may say, because we've only got 10 minutes or less. We've got state governments who are Yoruba governments, Ogun State, Ondo State, Ekiti, and we've even got quite a lot of professors. Shouldn't our state government come together and sit down within themselves and say, how do we revamp education in our state? Take it off of the federal government. Let it be Yoruba, pro-Yoruba, even if it takes all the states to put in money aside to say education development, building schools, getting computers and things. Is it not something that they could do, or are they just riding with the tide and looting as much? The same thing they're doing with security votes that has no budget or anything.
Well, security, education, and all that is tied to, it has become an exclusive list under the federal government. Everything's on an exclusive list. That is why, even during the time of UPN rule, I was part of that too. UPN really wanted a properly set up education with the curriculum based to be very scientific, right from primary to the secondary and to the university, if the federal government allowed. Because as at that time, the federal government had taken over all the schools of the universities before the new change where their private universities emerged. The federal government made sure that everything the UPN states ordered in terms of technological assistance for education was delayed for more than 1.5 years before they were released. They had that power because the power of sovereignty over the rest of us, which we have given to them through election, putting people like Shagari in power. They made sure they stayed on it. And meanwhile, they will be called to lay foundation of the things we are doing, just like the metro line in Lagos. My friend was part of the procurement officers for the Lagos metro line. He's retired now. When I went to visit him, I told him that they will not be allowed to build it. They were just collecting, because I saw the picture. How would Shagari be signing that Lagos will become like New York when he is coming from Ilupaka Shagari village, not even Sokoto, or Buhari along Lagos Metro, or even Baba Yaradua was the minister for Lagos Affairs, under whose authority the Lagos Metro who have been started even before independence. Yet our people are busy going to a tennis club, Yoruba tennis club, and all of those places drinking. I'm sorry, I was young. I remember there was a group of young men who were concerned, apart from the Yoshinowo who got murdered later. They were called the Justin Brothers. They worked at the federal ministry. They were so disgusted about the turn of events after the white men left, and how the federal ministries were now being used to bring down everything. It started, it just didn't start now. ASU problem did not start now. It started right from the day we had independence. The interest of education was not at the federal level. If it was, they should have at least federal details will also have influenced the regions. But Western region could not stand alone. And to stand alone, they should have been calling for the dissolution of the amalgam. It's not pulling out of Nigeria. It is an amalgam. That's why I'm saying the way America was formed is formed by the gun. The way Nigeria was formed by an amalgamation. And as an amalgam that has failed, we have a right to call it off. So that each person that became amalgamated into it will go its own separate way. After all, my Yoruba people, some of us were amalgamated into Benin, and they speak French, and to Togo, they could have been speaking German, but for the First World War that took Togo away from the Germans. So you see, we here now, we were just put into Nigeria, part of us, and the rest of us are in those other countries, and also even Ivory Coast and Southern Accra in the Gold Coast, which erroneously they call Ghana. Well,
yeah, because if we look at the British, the French, the Germans, they didn't really come to. All they came for was business, and before you knew it, they were just joining people together and slicing people with scissors and mending people with sellotape. So they sliced the Yoruba with scissors and shared us into two, and took sellotape Yoruba and Hausa kingdom, sellotape us
and
with
Igbo kingdom together.
and that's the bane of the problem we are having today.
So we have to remove the sellotape.
Yeah, so
let everybody go his own way.
In order to remove the sellotape, I'm just going to take you. We've got just 2 minutes now.
Yeah.
The shooting in America. I've noticed that it's always in the primary school. What has children got to do with this? Why are children the victims? Because if we look at education, we know the teachers are also victims, but majority of the victims are children.
Well, you see, like I said, we look at the background. Why guns in America? America was born with a gun, and everybody has to take care of yourself. And people growing up around guns look at even the pictures and the advice and briefings of gun-toting people all over the place. The Roy Rogers, the John Waynes, the Chisholm, and all others. What we now see is that the young ones growing up see themselves trying the gun on other human beings. There was a situation when one young little boy took his father's gun and shot his own brother. He said he wanted to see how people die.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And this young man killed his own grandmother.
Yeah, because it has become part of the psyche of the American society. That is why pathetic. I cannot vouch to discuss fully. I can only see the large picture of what is happening. I cannot advance any solution to it. It is in the hands of the Americans to solve. Just like Tony Blair told us as Africans that the problem of Africa is in the hands of the Africans to solve. Then just like Boris Johnson said recently that we've done everything that's in their hands to solve their problem.
And which will bring us to our topic next week. We'll be looking at the African Union vis-a-vis the development of Africa. A lot of people say they are waiting for Nigeria. I think what they're waiting for is the Yoruba people. And the Yoruba people are rising up now. 5 million Yorubas have signed a petition to extricate themselves from Nigeria, which is the largest in Africa.
To correct that thing again, I just give a very clear definition of how Nigeria came. It's an amalgam.
Yeah.
5 million Yorubas have called for the dissolution of the
Dissolution of
amalgam.
the
That
amalgam.
is the thing we should be
And
saying. Because
yes,
we were put together as an amalgam, and then we have to go away. Because,
yeah.
like I told some of the people I spoke to some time ago, wọ́n pín wa mọ́ Nàìjíríà ni wọ́n fi àwọn ẹbí wa kan lẹ̀ sínú French. So wọ́n wá so wa mọ́, like you said, sellotape with the Hausas and the Igbos, who we don't understand their language. Àyàfi tá bá ṣèdè Èbó. So the point is dissolution of the amalgam.
Of course. Exactly. Thank you very much, Baba Jala. So that is where we will call the program for today. For those of you who are joining us, the program is 1 p.m. We look at the matters arising. And last week and this week, we've been talking about education. ASUL is still on strike. ASUP is on strike. The end game is it is the children, the students that are suffering, although the workers are also suffering because they're not being paid. And then in America, children are being killed. And we looked at why is it always children, students that are the youth that are suffering. So if you know what is going to be the perfect solution for all this, then you can send your comment. Next week, we'll be looking at development, and we'll be looking at African Union. Do we ever feel that? We feel the European Union. When the European Union cough, the whole world is like, what happened? But African Union, it seems like
it's a social club.
It's even worse, a social club. I mean, people get things going. The African Union just met some few days ago. Nobody even talked. The only thing Africa is thinking is, we'll have a African passport in 2063. They always give 50 years program because they will not be alive to implement
African
it.
passport.
Yeah, so we'll look at Africa Union vis-a-vis what Yoruba can do to transform the African Union. And until we come again your way.
The African continent, not the African Union.
African continent. Yeah, well.
I will explain that during the next.
So until we come your way next week, I would say thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
lọ́jọ́kọ́jọ́ làbẹ̀wò kúkú dùkú lóko Podium International wọ́n ti wà tipẹ́tipẹ́ látìgbà tí wọ́n ti ń bàbọ̀ wọn ò fìgbà kan tẹ́rì o wọ́n ti wá ṣe bẹ̀bẹ̀ wọ́n ti gbé bẹ̀bẹ̀ dé Podium Cinema ni wọ́n tún gbé dé Podium Cinema lórí YouTube ẹ fọ́lọ̀ wọn kẹ́ ẹ láìkì wọn kẹ́ ẹ subscribe ibẹ̀ lẹ́tì mọ̀ wọ àwọn àjẹ́ àbálẹ̀ fíìmù ẹ̀dọ̀kí fíìmù tó léfò gan tààrà Podium Cinema mo bẹ́rí fún yín fíìmù 9 ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ni wọ́n kó jáde o àwọn gbàǹkọ́gbé fíìmù èkíní májẹ̀mú ẹ̀gbọ́n èkejì my wet ẹ̀kẹta ọmọ ẹni ẹ̀kẹrin àlàmú èkó ẹ̀karùn-ún àìmọ̀ ṣẹ̀wárí pé nǹkan kì í ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ràgó ó kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ eléyìí lẹ́tìkẹjù èdè Yorùbá ni wọ́n fi ṣe àwọn fíìmù yìí ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kẹfà sẹ́ẹ̀kẹsàn-án èdè òyìnbó ni wọ́n kọ́ ẹ̀kẹfà tẹ́mà èkeje the casting ẹ̀kẹjọ M1 the detective ẹ̀kẹsàn 100 M1 the detective at 100 orí síríìsì lẹ́fì máa wò ó ìyẹn dàgbéléwò nìyẹn Podium International Podium Cinema ẹ fọ́lọ̀ wọn kẹ́ ẹ láìkí wọn